in the mountain areas itself, particularly also in the downstream areas. And it's not the amount of water only, but it's also the timing that changes the regime, that changes ecosystems, that changes everything. That changes the energy provision, that changes the food production that we can do in this area. Some 40% of the global food is actually produced by irrigated agriculture, a field that needs to grow in the coming years because of the uncertainty in the rainfall and the climate. So we will actually need more irrigation water demand, but that might change quite significantly, particularly if it's originating from mountain areas. I could continue about the importance for nutrition, transportation, tourism, and et cetera, with multiple impact for people, for the economies, but also for peace and security at a larger range. A few facts. I said I want to speak in this introductory speech about the changes in cryosphere that we generally know quite well, and I think there's no excuse for saying, oh, we don't know them well enough, there's no need to do action now. But if I may review a couple of cryosphere elements that are changing rapidly. They're changing in the high mountains and the polar regions, but also with multiple implications for the downstream people. Thinking about glaciers first, and it was estimated that in Central Asia more than 1,000 glaciers got lost in the last 50 years. We don't know exactly because of the data availability. It might be more than many thousands actually, but a very, very significant change. The Swiss Alps, I'm living in Geneva nowadays, and it was estimated that about 10% of the glacier mass was melted away and not recharged in the last 2 winters. We had quite warm and relatively dry winters in much parts of the Swiss Alps, and that led to a quite very significant reduction of the glacier mass. Snow cover. In the latest State of Global Water Resources report, which we published last month, we have some figures about the main catchments in the Alps, so the Rhone, the Danube, the Rhine and the Po. And for the last 30 years of data that was available, it was never so low in terms of snow cover during a single year. Arctic sea ice is at a record low. Permafrost, some colleagues like to call that, it's a sleeping giant when it comes to further accelerating climate change because of the emissions that can come from a melting core permafrost, particularly when it comes also to methane emissions. They call it the carbon bomb. So really very rapid changes are expected, changes that we don't understand very well, because this is a region where, when I come to data later, where we have very little understanding and continuous measurements to actually assess the risks properly. Glacier lake outburst floods. More than 1 million people are living in the first 10 kilometers just downstream of potential risk areas, and literature tells us that the risk has increased already 3 times over the last 10-15 years. Well, while summarizing some of these gaps, I would like in my second part of this presentation to say a few words about the gaps of knowledge, things that we do not know very well. And the first gap I would like to point to is the observational gaps. We have, as we all know in this room, mountainous areas often and polar regions are often very difficult to access, so therefore in situ observations are very difficult, very costly, and far too little and far too short time series. And because of financial pressure to always optimize on our monitoring networks, it's actually an unfortunate trend that we have a further reduction in observations. EasyMod has estimated that out of the more than 50,000 glaciers in the Himalaya, only 28 glaciers are actually observed in their mass balance. So that's, well, we have to say these are the representative ones, but however, we do understand how changes could be very different if we would have the opportunity to observe more and observe them better. So despite the very significant advances in Earth observation technologies, which come later in my presentation again, we do have serious struggle with the observational gap. Other gaps include the lack of understanding of the radiative forces and their effects on melting of many of the cryosphere elements. There's a big knowledge gap, particularly when it comes to light-absorbing particles in the atmosphere. Black carbon while there were some papers clearly demonstrating the effect of burning dirty fossil fuels and then the deposition of black carbon in glaciers and snow-dominated areas, and what does it mean for accelerating the accelerated melt. There's been some evidences for the Himalayas as well as for the Andes. But overall, to understand and how to really manage that better is still a very significant knowledge gap. But what we can say that the improving air pollution, the air pollution situation by reducing emissions from black carbon, not only helping the people locally, but it also helps the people by reducing the black carbon inputs to mountainous areas. Projections uncertainties. Well, we have to work with increasingly detailed in space and time regional climate models, downscaling them to the local to local areas where we actually do need to take decisions on adaptation actions is still a significant challenge, because it's not only a question of a deterministic or statistical downscaling approach. It's also having the local data to be able to do that with confidence in a technical sound way. Two more gaps, if I may, which I would like to mention today, is the increased the need for more integrated risks assessment. I mean, truly integrated, while knowing that cryospheric and mountainous hazards are changing in frequency, are changing in magnitude in many parts of the world. But to have a fully integrated assessment of these risks due to the changes which I mentioned earlier, what does that mean for the occurrence of national hazards? What does that mean for the vulnerability of society? What does that mean for infrastructure that was often designed under completely different climatic and socioeconomic conditions is still not well understood and needs further efforts. And finally, the organizers of this event put the emphasis a lot on adaptation challenges. And while we do have empirical evidences of cases in many parts of the world how adaptation can help locally, we don't have a well understanding what are the limits and what are the scalability of certain best practices that are maybe successful in one part of the world. How do they apply in other parts of the world? Do we have the necessary integrated cost-benefit analysis, all the costs, not only the economic costs, the cultural and other costs. What does it mean in terms of benefits for adaptation in other parts? How can we scale and upscale and outscale such methodologies? To do this, ladies and gentlemen, and we have been saying that for quite a number of years, we need to raise awareness. Therefore, events like this and all the activities that UNFCCC and other partners here on the table do is critical. We need to enhance our scientific understanding. We need to promote action. So I think we have been saying that for some time, yeah. But how do we actually do that? How do we actually strengthen policy frameworks that allow us to do that? You know, how do we really increase the necessary financial support to be able to do these actions? You know, and to contribute to the better scientific understanding, to be able to promote the right actions at the right time, at the right place. I come to the last part of my keynote presentation. I would like to share, giving the time, just a few examples of the activities we are doing at the World Meteorological Organization, at WMO, which has always prioritized the high latitude and high altitude areas, as well as the downstream implications of these areas. So through observing, through standardizing observations, but also through strengthening monitoring networks and providing services for society for good decision making. It is actually 150 years ago when the International Meteorological Organization, the IMO, that's the predecessor of the WMO, it was in 1879 when member states requested, and let me just read out just a few sentences. So 150 years ago, they already said that member states to organize observations at high elevation and glaciers, length and thickness, to share data, which we're still struggling with a lot still after 150 years, to aid solutions of problems that may present themselves in the future. So this is language from 150 years ago. You see the emphasis was there. Not 150 years ago, but 5 months ago, we had the so-called World Meteorological Congress, the 19th Congress of WMO members were discussing, and they agreed on a set of 5 high-level priorities for the next period, 24, 27, for polar and high mountain regions. We're really, by strengthening our understanding, but also our response capacity to mitigating, adapting global and regional impacts of the irreversible changes in the cryosphere. Let me just mention a few examples of what WMO is working on, and very much looks for partners to further implement these activities. First is we are co-leading the International Year of Glaciers Preservation in 2025 with UNESCO and hopefully many partners. Every 4 years WMO has the Congress, but every 2 years there's the so-called Extraordinary Congress. And the next one in 2025, we hope to discuss the high-level strategic priorities in that respect and action plan on cryosphere, and really put a lot of emphasis on cryospheric topics. Third example, which I would like to share, is the establishment of a fully integrated global cryosphere information system. That has been a long-term goal of the Global Cryosphere Watch since many years, and we believe such a integrated global cryosphere information system could really is necessary to share information, is necessary to inform policy and decision making, but is also necessary to fully integrate cryosphere in full Earth systems predictions and forecasting systems. Fourth, WMO will continue to publish its reports, so that's what we do at the UN. We publish our reports. It's very important to demonstrate all the knowledge. We recently started with the State of the Water report, and people say, why do you need every year a State of the Water report? Is the water changing so rapidly? And I think the answer is yes. We do need annual reports because the changes due to climate change in the cryosphere in particular really require a continuously observation and monitoring of these changes and communicating that to the public. So we do the Global State of Climate report, was published day before yesterday of the year 2023, but also regional reports and the State of the Water report, which also has cryosphere information. One more, colleagues, one more example of the activities that WMO is facilitating is in collaboration with the Commission for Earth Systems Observations, as well as the Coordination Group for Meteorological Satellites. We advocate for the critical need for upscaling satellite observations in the cryosphere, supporting that with ground truthing to have a better documented observing systems for analyzing risks and monitoring the changes, and also inform policy and decision making. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude this short presentation by a quote yesterday. The water and climate leaders, which are a group of eminent political leaders, ministers, heads of states, and former ministers, former heads of states, were concluding their term as water and climate leaders, and they said that they discussed the critical role for water for climate action, and they said something in a nutshell: if we take care of water, because water is so critical for mitigation, for adaptation, for building resilience to society, if we take care of water, water can help to take care of climate. And I think in this group, I would like to adapt that statement of the water and climate leaders and say, well, if we take well care of the polar and high mountain regions, these regions can really help us to take care of the people and the planet and the climate in particular. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you for your excellent remarks, giving concrete examples and also putting forward points that can be taken up later on. This has provided a very helpful context and possible areas where the Nairobi work program could provide value additions in these thematic areas. I encourage all participants to use this event as an opportunity to share your expertise, learning and insight, and provide concrete inputs to inform the work on these thematic areas under the Nairobi Work Programme. I look forward to your constructive engagement and wish you all a fruitful discussion and exchange in this meeting. Let me thank Mr. Udenbroek and close this high-level event. I now would like to hand over to the Secretariat, who will take us through the technical segment. And my excuse that I already have to leave now because I run out another meeting and have to be back there as soon as possible. Thank you and good luck.
Morning. everyone. Thank you so much, Substa Chair, Dr. Uhlenbrook, for your excellent keynote. I think we still have a challenge for participants lining up in the queue, and we are seeing participants trickling in. We hope to have as many as the ones who have conformed, and we apologize for this long line, and we hope you are able to engage constructively in the technical segment going forward. I think we might have to put the slide up, maybe. Just one quick slide on the... We have the main, as we've heard from the chair of the Substa, the work on mountains, including, of course, on cryosphere, will be one of the priority thematic areas of the work under the work program going forward. As we have heard from Dr. Uhlenbrook, the context-specific adaptation solutions are very critical to enhance or scale up and scale out good practices on adaptation in these thematic areas. Dr. Uhlenbrook has also highlighted areas of work which are possible value additions for the Nairobi work program going forward. In this case, we are hoping to focus the conversations in the technical segment on three aspects, as outlined by Substa Chair himself. What knowledge exists, what knowledge is needed to address the full spectrum of adaptation and resilience, especially in the context of these thematic areas. Second, how to enhance the provision of such knowledge, which is practical, accessible to parties, and for those implementing adaptation in countries and regions across the world. What does this entail? Whether it's a capacity building, whether it's a methodological tool, whether it's engaging, bringing together everyone in a dialogue or in a common space. And third, how to develop and enhance synergy with processes, including constituted bodies under the convention and initiatives that we know are set up outside the convention. We hope through this engagement in the technical segment, look forward to building a long-term strategic engagement with governments present in the room and of course outside, including our Nairobi Work Program partners and experts, which should hopefully collectively help address the knowledge needs and to address the full spectrum of adaptation and resilience in these thematic areas. Very quickly on the approach, looking at the time, we will have about 40 minutes or so in the technical segment, which is our interactive part of the forum, and we look forward to your collective engagement in the process. We'll be addressing this breakout groups in two different clusters. The first cluster will be focusing on mountains, and the second will be on high-latitude areas and the cryosphere. For mountains, we have a pleasure to have Dr. Carolina Adler, Director of the Mountain Research Institute. She will be moderating the session with, together with Dr. Stefan Ruchti-Crowley, Director, Climate Negotiation Architect, International Cryosphere Climate Initiative. He will be moderating the session on high-latitude areas and the cryosphere. And they will be guiding the discussion in their respective group with the purpose of addressing these guiding questions. Very quickly, we will have about 40 minutes, and just in terms of the logistics, because we would like to maximize the time we have for the focal point forum, so we are going to use this room and have Dr. Adler will take the left corner down to use the space for the mountain discussion. Dr. Stefan will be taking the space on the right, on this corner. And both of the groups then will have a parallel discussion. You will be hearing from some experiences on the ground from countries and experts, including a knowledge holder from the Arctic, which hopefully will provide inputs to inform and catalyze further discussion in the segment. I would like to invite Dr. Adler and Dr. Ruchti-Crowley for moderating the respective sessions, and then we will reconvene in the plenary for the reporting back. Thank you so much. Maybe one thing I actually forgot to mention, that this is a self-assignment group. So a kind request is for delegates and for experts present in the room, based on your experience and expertise, please decide which group you would like to engage, because it's happening in parallel. But I think we need to swiftly move to the breakout group mountains on the left-hand side and high-latitude areas and cryosphere on this side with Dr. Crowley. So, thank you so much.
And great if you can bring your chairs. Thank you.
Dear colleagues, please take your seats so that we can wrap this session. We have another event happening immediately after this, so we need to wrap up on time. Okay, for now, I would like to thank all the participants for the constructive engagement in the technical segment. You've all been very generous with your inputs. Please do take the opportunity to continue to engage going forwards. At this point in time, I would like to now invite Alvin Chandra from the UN Environment Programme, the Global Coordinator for Adaptation Policy and Partnerships, to report back on the key messages from the breakout group on mountains. Alvin, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. There was a very rich discussion in the group, and I'll try and summarize it in the best way possible. I think one of the key takeaways was vulnerability of mountains. From Bhutan, Andorra, from India, Philippines, participants identified that mountain ecosystems are amongst the most vulnerable to climate change. This leads to, of course, the various needs, gaps, and resourcing. So we heard from the case of Bhutan, there is a need for collaboration with governments, research institutes, and universities, the need for adaptation plans, resource mobilization plans, and the need for technologies to be custom to country needs. In the case of EU and Netherlands, there is a common need for early warning systems, as well as some initiatives while being undertaken on regional collaboration on mountain ecosystems around common heritage, with specific conventions on mountain ranges. This needs to be connected to knowledge holders. Also, in the case of Andorra, for example, there's need for impact indicators at the global level that needs to be tailored to national and local circumstances. In the case of Peru, we heard around financial commitments, or this is the Mountain Institute of Peru, sorry, the tracking of financial commitments around biodiversity hotspots linked to mountains, and that would help improve tracking of financial needs. In the case of ECMOD, we heard that the region is doing quite a lot in terms of closure of adaptation gaps, which then presents opportunities to connect knowledge with knowledge holders. There were also a lot of very good practices, from early warning systems to ecosystem-based approaches in Bhutan, to innovative finance, for example, use of tourist fees, very strong evidence of community-led and locally led approaches, and also around building robust data sets that are linked to water and geohazards. In terms of the last point on synergies, opportunities for collaboration, Czech Republic talked quite a lot in terms of the collaboration amongst mountainous countries. Countries are uniting and joining efforts. They are leading efforts through the Group of Mountain Partnership in terms of bringing mountains and climate change together. Andorra, I believe, has joined. There's also opportunities under the next cycle of the IPCC that would help address knowledge gaps. There's also opportunities under the PCCB to enhance access to capacity and financing, as well as establishing network of organizations that can support mountains and efforts on addressing vulnerability to climate change. So that is a wrap and a snapshot on what the discussions were in the mountains. Obviously, participants felt that there's more rich discussion, and this should continue. And I'll stop over here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alvin, for this complete and very good and concise wrap-up. I would like to pass on now the floor to Amy Duchel. She's the leader, Forests and Climate at the FAO, and she'll report back the key messages from the breakout group on latitude areas and the cryosphere. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Stephen, and thank you to the group that I was privileged to listen to today. It was a very rich discussion. Also, I think a few synthetic messages that came out for me. One is really this need to bridge scientific and indigenous and traditional knowledge. There were very clear examples, including from the indigenous representatives in the group, that we've really reached adaptation limits for people needing to relocate in these areas, but also animals. Reindeer was given as an example, and that, you know, no longer the traditional ways of managing land and resources are appropriate or under increasing climate change. And so, the importance of climate services that was given from Sweden, but then bridging that with indigenous knowledge systems to encompass a diversity of worldviews. So that could be a focus of the Nairobi work program. I think it would be quite rich. Then I think in implementation, it was very clear that, of course, national adaptation planning is a key instrument for moving these things forward, as our NDCs, the National Inventory of Glaciers in Peru. It's the focus of the NDC. But then when we get to implementation, that's where things get very hard. And I think the representative from Chile outlined that very well, that, you know, one, it's extremely important to have a broad consultative process in national adaptation planning, but that we also need to go beyond the NAP cycle and really get to the ground level of implementation, because otherwise even the national planning instruments are staying at the higher level and not necessarily getting to the ground where they need to be. And then maybe moving forward for the third question is, you know, this importance of partnerships, and that was also emphasized quite a bit. And I would say from FAO's perspective, FAO hosts the Secretariat of the Mountain Partnership, very enthusiastic about this new agenda through the Nairobi Work Program. And we heard in the group a lot about restoration of lands to also enable adaptation and resilience of people and ecosystems. And together with UNEP, FAO is co-leading the UN Decade on ecosystem restoration. There is a flagship on mountains, but there could maybe also be something on high-latitude areas and cryospheres. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy, and thank you. Thank you very much, Amy, and thank you to both rapporteurs for that very concise effort in a very short period of time. So this will give us ample information for the continuation of the work. I would just like to ask, is there anything that was not covered that any of you around the table would like to introduce? I mean, that would be a 10 to 30-second statement if you want to intervene. Yes, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think one important factor that perhaps needs to be considered and was mentioned in our group and not picked up was this source to sea element of the cryosphere melt. The sea level rise is due to over 50% of sea level rise is due to glacier melt. And then, of course, you have the sea level rise aspect of that. I'm sorry, I should introduce myself as Joanna Poster, Director of the Global Ocean Observing System, and we are developing and have a global ocean monitoring system for sea level rise, GLOS, which we really need to develop further, but it is in existence, and there's 15 centres around the world that bring that information to support countries in understanding the sea level rise and working with communities very much to understand the capacity there. So I just wanted to bring that topic up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would there be any other intervention at this time? Thank you so much. So I would pass on the floor then to my colleague moderator.
Thank you very much, Stefan. And indeed, as Johanna mentioned, what happens in the mountains and the cryosphere doesn't stay in the mountain and the cryosphere. It affects all of us all the way down to the lowlands and the sea. With that, I would like to thank also, it's encouraging to see the concrete areas of work emerging from this discussion, which will provide important inputs to inform the work under the Nairobi Work Program on these thematic areas going forwards. It is also exciting to see that countries, partners and experts have expressed interest in engaging with the work, which is a very positive signal we are receiving already today. So please take the opportunity for us to continue contributing to this work as we move forwards. With that, I would like to now hand over to the SABSTAC Vice Chair, please, for the closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here on behalf of Harry, the chair of the SAPSTA that was with you early this morning. I'm very happy because adaptation is something that my particular country needs. I'm from the Dominican Republic, so I'm very happy to witness what you achieved today, and I'm looking forward for the report of the whole event. We have come to an end of this mandated 16th Focal Point Forum of the Nairobi Work Program on mountains, high-latitude areas, and the cryosphere at COP28. On behalf of Harry, as I said before, I want to thank you all for the constructive engagement and for sharing your insights where the work of the Nairobi Work Program can add value in this thematic area. I would also like to thank Paris, partners of the Nairobi Work Program, and experts who have already come forward and expressed interest in engaging with this work. The Secretariat looks forward to engaging with you in driving the work, as one of the objectives is to develop collaboration and synergy with processes and institutions, both under and outside the UNFCCC Convention. These inputs and suggestions are critical as I guide to the Secretariat in implementing the work on this issue, in particular focusing on enhancing provision and relevant and accessible knowledge to Paris and to those responsible for implementing the actions. Wishing you a very productive day. With this, I close this event.
like to start. Apologies for the slight delay, and thank you for your patience and bearing with us. I think we have all groups now represented in the room, and I would like to welcome you very much to the first informal consultations on SBI Agenda Item 19. Please remember that the Code of Conduct applies to all participants, both inside and outside negotiation rooms. If you witness or experience any incidents, you can make a complaint to the email address speakup@unfccc.int or a UNDSS officer. Now, let us go through some housekeeping items. Please scan the QR code that you can see on the screen and posted by the door to provide your contact details. This ensures that we can communicate with those attending these meetings under this agenda item in a timely manner, for instance, for the upcoming sessions and any potential room changes. This meeting is broadcasted on the COP28 platform. However, this allows only to watch the session and no intervention can be made by remote participants. But I'm very glad to see such a full room, so I'm not worried that we'll have a very fruitful and constructive discussion here. We'd like to remind parties about the unprecedented workload that the SBI needs to cover in this session, and that it is vital for us to conclude on time to ensure the overall success of the session. As per the SBI Chair's guidance, we hope to receive a mandate from you to produce a first draft text as soon as possible, and ideally get to work on it directly after this first meeting. Finally, let us also remind you of the guidance provided by the SBI Chair to keep meetings open to observers. To ensure open, inclusive, and meaningful engagement of observer organizations, the Secretariat, in consultation with the NGO constituency groups, will be testing a ticketing system at COP28. The system will provide each NGO constituencies with 1 ticket per agenda item and a corresponding reserved seat. In the event of a full room and a party badge holder wishes to attend, we will request parties to ask their overflow colleagues to kindly leave the room. We seek parties' understanding and cooperation in testing this ticketing system to ensure a minimum physical presence of observer NGOs in informal consultations. In this regard, we would also like to take a moment now to ask you whether any party objects to the proposal to keep all meetings under this agenda item open to observers. That does not seem to be the case. Thank you very much. Observers can stay in the room. Let's move forward with our meeting. I see many familiar faces and colleagues and friends from the last years of negotiations, but I still want to get us all on the same page, so we'll provide you with a brief look back on where we are now. At COP27 last year, parties adopted the action plan under the Glasgow Work Programme, producing a roadmap for implementation for 4 years. This was a great achievement thanks to the positive and constructive spirit displayed throughout several sessions by all of you. Now, with this heavy workload behind us and fully in implementation mode, at this session, the SBI is expected to consider the annual summary report under the Glasgow Work Programme prepared by the Secretariat. It's also the first report including the implementation of activities from the action plan. As per the action plan, specifically activity D3, the Secretariat already organized a virtual information session to present the annual summary report in detail. But with your indulgence, we will ask the Secretariat now to briefly present the key contents here again, to refresh everyone's memory and get us on the same page. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. So as our co-facilitator has just mentioned, we already organized a virtual information session to present the report in details, but this presentation aims to refresh your memory on the contents of the report itself, but also what happened at last session. So the report was published on 15 September 2023, and you can find the report in all 6 UN languages in our website, and you can access the report through the QR code. This report covers the period from September 2022 to August 2023, and it compiles information from parties, the Secretariat, and other stakeholders in implementing activities under the Glasgow Work Programme and its action plan. So brief look at the table of contents. The first chapter is introduction. The second chapter on mandated events. This includes proceedings from the COP27 presidency event, as well as the 2023 ACE dialogue. The third chapter, following the mandate from the activity D1 of the ACE action plan, compiles monitoring, evaluation, and reporting practices and resources, and more detailed information is captured in Annex 3. The next chapter on national ACE focal points provide updated number on the ACE focal points, but also the activities organized by the Secretariat to build capacity and provide networking spaces for the ACE focal points. It also provides information in accordance with activity C3, the support provided for participation of the ACE focal points at SB 58. The fifth chapter on parties include information that we have from the NDC and LT-led synthesis reports, information from the submissions, but also following the activity A2 of the action plan, we have analyzed information from the NDC and LT-led synthesis reports, especially those relating to the element of public participation, as well as the 11th preambular paragraph of the Paris Agreement. The next chapter on the UNFCCC constituted bodies, we have analyzed their annual reports on how ACE is being implemented, but also good practices by some constituted bodies. Chapter 7 on UN agencies, we included work of some UN bodies, but also the work of the UN Alliance on ACE. The next chapter on other stakeholders, we have included information from the submissions provided by non-party stakeholders. The final two chapters include activities from the Secretariat to raise awareness and communicate information on ACE to wider stakeholders, and also youth engagement and capacity building activities. The two annexes attached to the report includes information on references to the mandate. So here you will find the activities from the Glasgow Work Programme and its action plan, and how the paragraphs in the annual summary report corresponds to these mandates. Last year at COP27, following the decisions 23 CP27 and 22 CMA4, which is the action plan under the Glasgow Work Programme on Action for Climate Empowerment, parties took note of the annual summary report by the Secretariat on progress in implementing activities under the Glasgow Work Programme. Now I yield the floor back to the co-facilitator.
Thank you very much for walking us through the annual summary report. I hope you all had a chance to read it, and if not yet, I encourage you. It's a wealth of information provided, and I particularly appreciate the annex, which makes it very easy to find references to the report on topics that are important, particularly important to you. Dear colleagues, we would now like to open up the floor to hear from you. To help guide our discussion at this informal consultation, we have prepared two guiding questions. First, the question on the annual summary report: are there any parts of the report that could be improved with regards to A, structure, and B, content or substance? Second, the question: is there any further guidance on the ongoing implementation of mandates under the Glasgow Work Programme and its action plan? This is an opportunity for you to provide specific, targeted guidance that might enhance the implementation of the existing mandates under the Glasgow Work Programme and the action plan. After I've heard from parties, we would like to propose to prepare a draft text after the session, if you give us the mandate. I open the floor and look forward to your interventions. And just one addition: if you want to be in the speakers list, because it's difficult to see raised flags, please press the button in front of you, then it will show up on our screen, and then we'll call up the numbers that are in front of you. Apologies, even with my glasses, I can't see the flags at the end of the room. Thank you very much. I see the EU.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Good morning, co-facilitators. Just a clarification question, please. In the virtual session presenting the report, it was mentioned for the negotiation session something about the ACE dialogue next year to be discussed. Just for clarification, it will be addressed under question number 2, any further guidance on the ongoing implementation of the mandates? You see you nodding, so yes.
That's correct. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe just to add on the EU's question and to add to the clarification of that, indeed, we're focusing on the ongoing implementation, but of course the ACE dialogue is one very prominent activity that is ongoing for the next year, and if you have any views to share on that, that is a very good example on which we would like to hear your views as well. Thank you. If you would like to give us the feedback that everything is perfect and we can proceed to draft a text, we're also happy to do that. But I see the you. Thank you very much. Please press the button again, you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And so just to break the ice, as I started talking already, on behalf of the EU, we would like to welcome the report on the progress implementation of ACE activities under the Glasgow World Programme, and also highlighting the extensive work reflected in the report regarding the inclusion of young people in climate action and their participation in the UNFCCC process, mainly through capacity building and collaboration with younger constituencies. And we are ready to engage with other parties to discuss more on ways to improve the report if needed, and be with you today. Thank you.
There's still there. Yeah. Thank you very much, EU. I see Australia, please.
Thank you, co-facilitator, and to the Secretariat, and good morning, everyone. My name's Jared. I'm the Australian ACE focal point. It's wonderful to join you all here in Dubai, and it's great to see so many of you again after our session in Bonn in June. I first want to thank the Secretariat for preparing this annual ACE summary report on progress on implementing activities under the Glasgow Work Programme on ACE and their tireless efforts in supporting parties in their efforts to undergo this implementation. The annual report is an important resource for us to learn from each other's experiences in implementing ACE, to share knowledge, approaches and activities, and as we navigate putting the action plan agreed to at Charm into practice. Australia welcomed the opportunity to contribute to this submission, where we reported on our youth participation and engagement in decision-making and implementing climate action activities. We also welcomed the opportunity to co-moderate the ACE dialogue at SB 58, centred around this year monitoring, evaluating and reporting on ACE implementation. For the ACE dialogue in 2024, we would like to see a continued focus on inclusive modality to that ACE dialogue and interactive elements to make sure parties get the most out of that. Australia is confident this group can move quickly to a conclusion on this item, and we'd like to provide our co-facilitators with a mandate for a text for us to consider at our next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Australia, for your reflections and support. I see. So please press the button. I do see some raised flag, but if you press the button, you show up on our system here as well. Thank you very much. I see number 90, please.
Hello. Good morning, friends and colleagues. On behalf of the Japanese delegation, I would like to welcome our very able co-facilitator and the Secretariat colleagues to prepare for the discussion. As part of our the friends group of the ACE, together with the actually the party delegates and also non-party delegates here, I'm extremely pleased to participate in this very meaningful discussion of the ACE negotiations. Having the report provided by the Secretariat and also facilitated, we will also would like to concur with the my previous speakers, namely the Italian delegation on behalf of the EU and also the Australian delegation, where Japan is willing to engage in the discussion. And I think also this COP meeting, I am also extremely delighted and also excited to see there are so many ACE-related events. And I think this is I think we really appreciate the initiative by the COP28 presidency for the arrangement, and also really appreciate the Secretariat to prepare for this. So I look forward to the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Japan. And I have number 30, Egypt, if I'm correct.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, I have, thank you for this meeting, and actually I have a question and a request. I will begin with the request because of, I think I have difficulties in hearing you. The sound is not very quite loud anyway. That's my request. And my question is regarding the Glasgow work program, the fourth element about reporting evaluation. Is there any template to have this, to follow this up? Thank you.
So maybe just a question of clarification, a template to report a national capacity on ACE?
Could you repeat what?
Yeah, can you maybe clarify your question again regarding a template?
Okay.
For which
regarding
part?
the Glasgow work program, the evaluation and reporting issue, is there any templates that to be unified among the focal points or the parties to be implemented in this site, in this area? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Egypt, not to my knowledge. I don't think we have a template, but if you have a look at the report also on the best practices that were shared in the ACE dialogue in Bonn, there might be some national examples where you could maybe provide some outreach and get in touch with colleagues to learn from their good practices, if that's any help. Thank you very much, Egypt. Thank you very much. I see number 15, the Dominican Republic, please.
Thank you so much. I hope that everyone can hear me now. Yes? Okay. Well, first of all, I want to, on behalf of G77, appreciate the effort made by the Secretariat in compiling the information and producing this year's report. We also want to appreciate this space that we're having to discuss the report based on these two guiding questions. And I'm also very happy to see a lot of familiar faces, new faces, and to note that this room is very big, but it's also full. So, as part of our recommendations and improving with regards to the structure, content, of substance of the report, the G77 would like to view in a clearer way when it pertains to the content, the financial needs of the party. We understand that the information gathered in the report is based on what parties include in their national communications or in their NDCs or in their national plans. However, we would like to see in a deeper way at least a specific part that showcases or highlights the financial needs that the parties have. It is possible that perhaps because the report is not structured right now to show this, perhaps we could have a conversation on how that could happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the constructive feedback. Number 61, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I would also want to join others who have thanked the Secretariat for this annual report. which is very comprehensive, and also the various activities that have been planned for this particular COP on ACE. I think ACE is a very important area because without climate action empowerment, we won't be able to achieve the objectives of the convention and the Paris Agreement. So it's very critical, and we do appreciate. I just wanted to make some reference to the point that was raised by Egypt on the issue of monitoring, evaluation, and reporting. I think we had very constructive sessions in Bonn on this particular item, but I think I do agree with Egypt that it's an area that can be very complex. And for us to be able to get comprehensive reports or standardized reports from countries, it might be an issue that we may want to look at to see whether there could be developed some template that could assist countries so that at least the reporting is uniform and it can be, you can learn from others. Because if you're just going to be looking at reports from different countries, obviously each country would have their own format. But I think for us to have a comprehensive reporting on the implementation of ACE, it might be something that we may want to consider as one of the activities or the decision to, whether it's the Secretariat or who can maybe be able to develop some template that could be used by parties in terms of reporting on ACE. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, also for the very helpful feedback. Maybe if I can ask just for clarification, if you spoke in national capacity or on behalf of a group, just for our understanding. Thank you. I think number 61.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I'm coordinating ACE on behalf of the Africa Group, but I was not really speaking on behalf of the group because we have not been able to coordinate before this meeting. Thank you, Chair.
I understand. Thank you very much for the clarification. Yeah, we see another flag, but there's no button pressed, so maybe you can do that, and then it's easier for us to hand the mic to you. That's number 65, please.
Okay, so first off, we appreciate this space, and also we love being a full room. And as Mexico, we support the ideas of Egypt, Dominican Republic, and Zimbabwe. We think that for achieving the goals, there is to be more structure in the document, and we wanted to speak that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mexico. Duly noted. So I don't see currently any flags. However, we do have some time left, and I would like to explore some of the points I touched upon at my earlier intervention. And we have heard now from some parties the mandate to provide some text. I hope that is also echoed by those parties which didn't expressly say it, but maybe we can hear some additional voices on that. We've heard a lot of welcoming the report and thanking the Secretariat, and thank you very much for that. I've heard the question regarding a template and the usefulness for further discussions on this point. I have not yet heard expressed views on a topic for the next ACE dialogue, as was questioned by the EU at the very beginning. So if there are any reflections you would like to share also on this, we would appreciate your feedback to provide us with the content we can then put into a draft text after the session. Thank you very much. And I see Canada.
There we go. Thank you, co-facilitators. Sorry not to answer this direct question, but perhaps the first two.